Hi, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This is going to be my review on the comics I picked up this past week. I did a previous video where I showed everything I picked up. This one I'm just going to do a review. I also was able to pick up some of the other books I was missing. I read them and I'm going to add this into the review. So not really in any order, but I am going to save my best for the last. And I will point out my least favorite, but everything I read actually was really good this week. First we have Joker. This is issue number 3. Got him chilling out at his villain resort. This series is all about Commissioner Gordon, tracking down the Joker. He has been tasked by it's a lady named Cassandra, and later on you find out in the second issue that she's actually working for the Court of Owls. This comic right now, what it is it's like 3 or 4 different groups of villains per se, or bad guys that are after Joker due to this event or that event. Most of it comes from stuff we learned in Future State. I think that's when they did it. Was when a gas bomb went off at Arkham and killed I think 80% of the inmates there. One of them, well, he was already dead before, but Bane was one of those inmates. Spoiler alert. I'm not big. This is one thing about my channel. I'm not big on spoilers. I feel like you still have to read this stuff. You still have to see it. So if I do drop spoilers, but I mean, that is from 2 months ago, I think. But this is what's leading into this. And basically that's what it is these groups of bad guys that are after the Joker. And on the main part of the story is Commissioner Gordon actually doing some detective work, the good detective that he is, and he's tracking down the Joker. And he's been tasked to not only track the Joker down but kill him. This is some of the artwork. That's the I don't know. I think she's right there, but that's the lady that's paying Jim Gordon. He is still backed by the Bat family, and they show Barbara right here. And she's kind of, she's doing her Oracle thing and watching out for him. I really love this issue. It was great. We got to see, a lot of, just Jim Gordon's detective work. And it was kind of funny because he was doubting himself. And lo and behold, he still got it because he ends up running into the Joker. I think day 2 after he gets in Belize is where this takes place. This is Vengeance. It's a big hype on Bane's daughter. I think this is her first full, page reveal in a comic, in costume. So that was Joker number 3, and I think that was just the main cover A. Up next, we got Batman the Detective. This is kind of like an Elseworlds story. It's kind of reminds me of Batman the Dark Knight, but it's not. It really reminds me of Punisher mixed with Batman, because he is a little older, but he's a lot buffer than we're normally used to. He kind of reminds me of a 90s style Eddie Brock. This is just, it's done by Tom Taylor, and it's written really well so far. A lot of people were talking trash about it. It's Batman, and there's not too many bad Batman stories out there. A lot of people are like, oh, this has been done before, and you got to remember, this is 80 years worth of comic book stories, so they're going to do some of the same stuff over again, mainly for new readers, there's a lot of stuff that's been done before that, hey, it might have been first for you, and that's the first time you're catching something like that. I'm really digging this. It's set, and that's just some of the art. The story is Batman's going to London, and he's following up on a plane crash. When he gets there, he meets up with Squire and Knight, which is kind of like a Batman and Robin team up from London. They kind of originated from Batman Incorporated, so I don't know if that takes off on that Batman. But he is an older Batman. He's kind of tired of doing the whole Batman thing, so he goes to London. And he ends up running into this group right here called the Equilibrium, and they show him right here, and they're in this white Batman type of suit, and the art is, DC's killing on the art. If y'all haven't picked up any DC books, you're missing out, because they're going full blast on art and story right now. They're really trying to compete with Marvel and these indie books that are out. But basically, the group that he's after, they are killing anybody that Batman has saved, and it's kind of like this cult thing, and it's getting to the point where it even happens in the issue that where like one of their members gets saved by Batman, and they're like, no, you gotta die, and they kill him. And there's some other stuff that's going on in the background, and it's more like this detective, you know, they're showcasing just how badass the Batman is. They go into this friendship of him and this I wouldn't say he's he says he's a killer, but a thug and all this other stuff, and he's one of the guys that Batman saved early on, I guess, and now they're after him. But it was a good read, Batman the Detective #2. This was probably my least favorite book of the week, but it was still a good read. There was just I'll get to it, but this is Wonder Woman 772. That's the regular cover, and kind of my trash is with her. And sometimes they do this in comics, and I thought it was going to be a cool new version of Wonder Woman, or like this, maybe a dark vision of a version of Wonder Woman. Y'all don't know. This is coming out of the Dark Knight's death metal series, and Wonder Woman, she didn't die, but she was given the choice to become a god. She turned it down, and somehow she ended up in Valhalla. And this is like the third part of the story into her being in Valhalla, and she's met like Odin and Thor. She kind of has this little, like, it's a squirrel hybrid of something, but it kind of reminds me of like a version of Loki. I think his name is Rasputin, something like that. It's still continuing the story. She's trying to like uncover this mystery on what's going on here in Valhalla. And for her to figure it out, she has to go meet the Valkyries, and it's explained early on that the Valkyries are not supposed to be seen by the living, and they don't like company. When this story arc started out, she didn't really know or remember being Wonder Woman. Like, all her memories were wiped out, so some of the stuff is coming back in this issue. We finally get to see, she's flying for this first time, and that's actually Thor. And in this issue, we actually saw Thor use his lightning for the first time. Overall, it was a good read. I mean, and they're hinting at some other stuff. There was a cameo by Deadman, and I love me some Deadman, man. He's one of my favorite underrated characters that no one talks about. You don't even get to see him in a lot of comics, but I love Deadman. But we do get to see this cool, darker version of her, but, it ends up being something else altogether. I didn't like the explanation of it. I didn't like the cameo that went with it. I will say the ending I was pretty hyped up for, and it's not a spoiler or anything, but because I kind of already said, but, this is supposed to be the Valkyrie's home, and it just looks cool. She's, and that's going in the next issue. I do read everything in comics. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't read those secondary stories. Some of these secondary stories have been better than the main stories. This one, it's young Diana, and for me, it is hard to read. It's modeled for kids, but I mean, I still read it. The art's still great. I mean, but it is modeled for a teenage audience, and it's following like a very younger version of Wonder Woman. But actually, on this page right here, this is kind of what got me in this story. And she kind of finds this dark tomb of a red book, deep within the waters around Themyscira. So they're kind of getting that. And the next one that's going to be like the continuation is, what is this red book? Why was it hidden under the sea? The Amazons around Themyscira, they don't really go into the sea. It does protect them, but they have this weird taboo where they don't go in the sea. So it's going to be interesting where they're going with that. And that was Wonder Woman 772. Next up, we got Gotham, Future State Gotham. And this is following Jason Todd, his events leading up to him trying to become a peacemaker. There is one thing I want to touch base on. That I've heard a lot of people, like, one thing that's pissing them off about Jason Todd is that he's this killer now. I think only in one story, and it's the three Jokers storyline, you can't even see it. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at something you can't even see. But the 3 Joker line storyline, I think he did kill one of the Jokers in that storyline. Spoiler alert. But lately, he's shown to, like, it looks like he's killing. He's using rubber bullets. It's like specifically mentioned in Batman storylines that when Red Hood's in Gotham, he has to use rubber bullets. I don't know. I can't remember where he stays all the time, so I don't know if he's actually killing people there because he does use guns. But it's kind of the same thing with Batwoman. She uses guns. She just uses rubber bullets and ballistic bullets. There are, like, Grifter. He uses guns, and I think the only time he actually uses lethal guns is like weapon or ammo. Sorry, is like when he's going up against demons, because that's kind of Grifter's whole thing, is he can see demons. Okay, anyway, so Gotham State, Future State Gotham issue 1, and another other cover. Like I had mentioned, this is a black and white, comic. So if you're not into black and white comics, really, honestly, it was a lot like reading a manga or a light magazine. I read a lot of manga and light magazines, and I'm not against black and white. I love black and white film. I think there's something in the mystique of it. I mean, this is the penciling that made these real issues anyway. They just added ink and coloring. It's a little more detailed. But this is the events just basically following, like, Jason he's trying to become a peacemaker. It's leading up to this whole future state thing that we saw before with Jason, and he was sort of a peacemaker. I think the only thing at the end, they are setting up that Jason, that the Bat family thinks at this point in time in Future State, the Bat family is kind of against Jason Todd, and they don't really explain why. Like, he's betrayed them or something like that. We do know that Jason is acting as a spy, and they've kind of revealed that in the previous Future State issues, and they've kind of shown in here just to, like, reverberate it. They don't show it, but you kind of get the feeling that Batman as the dark detective is working with Jason Todd, and they're using him as a spy. In the back of this, there are they're called pinups, but they do show some other art, like this right here with the Batman in the black and white, because Batman was not in this issue. It was pretty much all Jason Todd, and at the very end we got Nightwing and the other Bat family, but there's some other black and white art in there. So that was Future State Gotham issue number 1. Next up, we got Rorschach. I'm not going to go into big into this because it's not a complete story. It's either going to 12 issues or 10 issues. I'm not sure about that. I think it's 12. Doomsday Clock was 12 issue. My sentiments about this and Doomsday Clock, I read Doomsday Clock when they came out, and they were so spread out over the 12 issues that I really liked the first 5 issues, and that's what I read. But after that, it kind of gets fuzzy. It's one of the things that I want to go back and read. I'm actually going to do a review on it. So I'm reading these as they come out. But as far as, like, grasping the whole story, they're kind of going all over the place. I mean, again, the art's amazing. I do like what they did here. This issue is just about this cop that's interviewing 3 different people. So it's showing, like, 3 different versions of their story. I mean, overall, it's a great read. It has a Watchmen feel. It has some, like, inner or back stuff about Frank Miller and Ditko and some other stuff. I don't really understand the beef or whatever's going on behind the scenes about that. But there is like, they mentioned Frank Miller's name, and I was all like, who is that? Who is that in this world? Was he supposed to be a president that I missed, or? Are they actually name dropping the author? But that was Rorschach number 8. This is Geiger issue number 2, and I'm really loving the series. It's really good. If you haven't picked up this, I really recommend it. The first issue was really good. It continues with the second one. I'm really loving the covers. Some of the creature creations, like the 2-headed radiated dog, is pretty cool. This is going into more of Geiger's backstory. Just kind of, it's like kind of a backstory, and I'm just really showing art. But it's kind of the backstory that's leading into the current day story, and they kind of hint at what's coming at the next story. But I mean, overall, it was a really good read. I had heard, watching other people's reviews and not talk, everybody's opinion is their own, but they were kind of referencing it to some Game of Thrones, like, I didn't really get that vibe off of it. Yeah, the king, and a setup of a character, and I didn't get a whole Joffrey vibe off of him. It's this guy right here. I mean, he just comes off of that as that evil, prick of a king. I mean, he doesn't look too young. He looks like, he looks young, but he could be anywhere between his 20s or 30s. So I don't get like a kid vibe. They do go into like they show like, in the next issue, get your answers here. They did have an ad for a really cool. This is one series that's coming out. This is written by Emily Clark, and that's the girl who plays Khaleesi in Game of Thrones. This is going to be her series that she's doing, kind of like how Keanu Reeves is doing Berserker, but I think it's called Serial Mom. And the tagline says, "Scientist by day, superhero heroine by night, badass single mom 24/7." And it says July 2021. It's kind of the one that I was kind of interested in picking up. It looks kind of interesting. On the back cover, it actually has another cool ad of a comic that's coming out in July, I think, and it's called Snipe and Slug. He's the gun, she's the bullet. And it's kind of like this Ant-Man Wasp, like where she's little, he's regular size, but he's using her as a bullet? Like, that kind of sounds cool. Like, I don't know. Next up, we have Justice League The Last Ride. Everybody was, hyping up this because of Zdarsky. I was going to pick it up anyways. I try and pick up all the main storylines in DC, and I think this is the first major one after they did Death Metal and The Endless Winter. The Endless Winter I didn't read, but I was huge into Death Metal things. So this is kind of like the first real event they've had, and I'm kind of agreeing with everybody else. I don't really know where this takes place in the storyline. They do show some stuff here, and I want to assume this is the Doomed Superman storyline, not the Doomsday where he died. I don't think that's that version. I think this is the first time he fights Brainiac, in the 52 series. I don't think that's a callback to the Golden Age. There is some, yes, great, I'm getting a phone call again. Sorry about that. I will say the art's really good. There's kind of some things that I could tell, like, this isn't a huge person with, like, I think he's just trying to do his own thing here. I'm trying to figure out where it would be fitting into the 52 different universes that are in the multiverse, because they do mention an event. They bring it up like 4 or 5 times. I will show this. I mean, they do have really good art. The way they show Wonder Woman right there is really badass. And I mean, the way they draw Soup and bats and everything. I want to say this is kind of leading up to the Future State stuff and how the Justice League got disbanded and how the new Justice League took over. And it feels like that, but there's some other stuff that's going on. But basically, Justice League The Last Ride is like, it's supposed to be their last mission, and they are trying to protect Lobo and take him to trial for all the crimes that he's done over the years. The Green Lantern Corps, they're trying to establish a new base, and they're trying to do it on Earth, actually on the moon, but they're trying to make the new Green Lantern headquarters, which I think in Death Metal, Batman Who Laughs did destroy Oa and everything. So I mean, that's why I want to say this is main continuity, but there are some other things that kind of happen in the end. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Death Metal. For one, the fact that Wonder Woman is in this, that it tells you that it's not main continuity, or it happened like while Death Metal was going on. I'm not quite sure. Overall, it was a really good read. I'm kind of interested to see where it's going. I love Lobo, so we'll see. The last comic I got was The Silver Coin from Image #2, and this was my #1 pick. It was also like my #1 pick a couple weeks ago. I don't have a video from that. It was before I started this whole channel. But this issue is just as great. The first issue was really great. It's a horror anthology. Each issue is a little different. Things carry over from one issue to the next. But basically this one's kind of like your summer camp, slasher. It follows like this little girl, and she's going to camp, and eventually, like, she's getting picked on by all these other girls, and it's your traditional, it kind of feels like an 80s, like summer camp, there's bullies, they're picking on a kid. Eventually, on one of the camp outs or whatever, she ends up finding this cottage, and inside the cottage there's this weird, like ritualistic stuff going on, and there is mention of, like, a serial killer that lived near this summer camp, the cliched slasher. But we do have the silver coin, and how it enters in this, and that's what it is. It's the anthology follows the silver coin, and basically the silver coin takes over. I'm not going to go into too many spoilers, but let's just say she gets her revenge on those bullies. I was kind of hoping from the first issue to the second issue that it would have really continued the story from this one to that one, because they did set up how the coin left that first issue to this issue, so I don't understand why they didn't continue that. And they do set up kind of this one, for the next one. So I don't see why they're setting it up if they're not going to follow it. But overall, I mean, it was amazing. It's got really great art. It is a horror book. It's got scary premises. I wouldn't say it's a scary read or anything, but it was definitely my #1 pick for this week. It was really good, and I was excited I was able to pick it up. These are some other things I picked up, just real quick. I did pick up Scouts Hunter #5, and that did come out this week, but I'm going to do a whole review of the whole series because this is the last issue, so be looking out for that. I did pick up this from Algama Comics. We got Dark Claw, and for y'all who don't know, this is Batman and Wolverine mixed together, and I found it in the wild, and it's a newsstand copy, and it was mint condition. I was like, hey, I got that Texas Blood, the first issue. Dank Comics is one of the ones that he got in one of his indie pickups, and I was like, hey, I live in Texas, I didn't even know that. So I found that and picked it up, and I'm gonna give it a read. I did pick up another one that he talked about with Sea of Stars. I got one and two, and I haven't read them yet, but I'm gonna try and read these. I had seen this series forever, and I just hadn't found issue 1. I think I've seen 7, 8, 9. I don't know how many issues are out, but it was one of the books that I wanted to pick up. I just couldn't find the first issue. But that's everything I picked up. It was a big haul this week. Big shout out to my good friend D-Boy 504 TV. It really wouldn't have been possible, if it wasn't for him. He's not only a big inspiration on why I do this channel, he's kind of my motivation for it. And it's funny, he's not really big into comics, but man, he every day, hey, you can do another video. Hey man, just make sure you pump out some stuff. So I mean, really, I mean, for y'all. For anybody that's liking me on this channel and y'all enjoying this, I mean, it's really him. I've always wanted to do something like this. I had thought about other things because I'm into a lot of other things, and I will showcase them on this channel eventually. But I want to stick to the comics part of it. But if you did enjoy this is my review for I think it was 5/19 or 5/12/2021. If you did like it, give it a like, thumbs up. I love comments, and I'm going to answer everybody that, especially for right now, since I don't have a lot of people. What did y'all pick up? What'd you like? Give me stuff to talk about. Stuff that you want to see on the channel. I'll definitely give you a shout out. Let's keep this going. #grow together. Subscribe if you already haven't. If you have, thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Thank y'all.